Hi everyone! Larua here, and I'm losing it! Or more accurately, my Wi-Fi is. This is very sad. I had so many plans today. What on earth was that? Hello? Anyways, if you're watching this, then you may or may not know that today I was going to stream, and I was going to read some artifacts and some weapons and so on and so forth, and then that didn't work. So we're here today to finish reading some artifacts. And if you're watching this without that stream context, hi! How are you? Welcome. Everything's fine. We're going to be reading... what's it called? Finale of the Deep Galleries. Galleries? Finale of the Deep Galleries! Welcome to this very calm, very normal Genshin study session. We're going to start with the feather. Alrighty, let's do this. We read a little bit of this. I'll go ahead and reread the bit that we already read because it was like 2 paragraphs. Shall we do this? Let's do this. Deep Galleries, distant pact. Following her master's guidance, the girl ventured northward, traversing the freezing wastelands and the corridor of fractured mirrors at the edge of the frozen sea. After slaying countless monsters that wandered the ruins, finally, among the abyssal remnants, she caught a glimpse of treasure concealed beneath drifting snow. What do you think she found? This artifact or her sword? What's the treasure? Yet, she was not the first outsider to set foot here. For long before the scions of the far north had woven their sweet dream of submergence, which I think is talking about the city, right? Hyperborea? Is that what it was called? A voyager whose sentient will traversed the cosmos once made a vow of reunion with a lord of dragons who had yet to fall into darkness. So, the Lord of Dragons is Nibelung, the Dragon King, I'm assuming. Seems to match. The Voyager, though, is very interesting, and I'm hoping that the rest of this artifact will give us more context as to who that might be. And we are now officially caught up, so let's move forward. This passerby, oh perfect, was a scribe drifting through the vast void, duty-bound never to commune with primordial civilization. As her undying body slumbered away within a distant celestial disk construct, her mind had drifted through an empty expanse spanning many light years, charting countless peoples and civilizations fated to perish, pondering the ultimate truths of the cosmos in that eternal darkness. Until a faint glimmer pierced her awareness, jolting the voyager from tenfold millennia of meditation. Interesting. Never to commune with primordial civilizations. Do you think they mean primordial as in some civilizations are extremely old and are connected to or are still connected to primordial existences? Or do you think they mean kind of like Star Trek, the rule where you're not supposed to communicate with civilizations that haven't yet achieved space travel? I forget what the term is for those. So do you think they mean by primordial civilizations here, primordial civilizations that are old or that are not yet part of the cosmos stage? Because that second one would make more sense to me. The first one's very curious though. Why not to commune with primordial civilizations? So let's see. A faint glimmer pierced her awareness, jolting the voyager from tenfold millennia of meditation. It came from an unremarkable little world at the edge of the spiral arm! And from the primeval dragon that had been born alongside that world. Oh my goodness! Wait, is Teyvat in a spiral galaxy? That's so cool. It's just like us. Though death would one day bring an endless night, and the sun it gazed upon was but a fleeting ember, this will, bound though it was to its planetary crust, shone more brilliantly than all the civilizations the Voyager had ever seen. Unable to suppress the wonder and sorrow welling up from within, she delivered a solemn pronouncement onto its ruler. I have seen the lightless end, tearing through star clusters like a spindle among silken threads. I have seen how the cold tide of chaos drowns out all songs, so that good and evil alike vanish into silence. And yet, my kind, gentle king, will you still refuse to abandon your people? Forsake this world, fated for ruin, and to journey with me beyond the stars. And we do know that he left, but then he comes back. Yet thus did the proud dragon reply. O friend from a distant world, I thank you for imparting these truths from beyond the skies. But though in your eyes they may seem ignorant creatures, to me they are the very meaning of this universe. If the tide of oblivion must come, then let my bones be the bulwark that shields this realm. Bear witness to the path I have chosen, for I shall lead my people onward to the stars. But when the voyager returned once more, the world she remembered had been utterly changed. The bones of the earth had been bound beneath fourfold shackles, and the soft white radiance of the sky had been split into 7 immutable hues. Like drifting smoke had the Lord of Dragons vanished, and the Winged One's throne now ruled the radiance of the 3 moons. Bewildered by the dragon's unannounced departure, yet unwilling to disturb the world's new ruler, the Voyager, defying the laws of her kin, quietly cast her mind into the world inside the shell. Vesting her consciousness in the body of a youth, she walked among these shorted animals? I've never even seen that word before. Listening to their fervent and ever-escalating debates in the City of Gold. Okay. So this is really sweet that this eternal Voyager noticed Nibelung and was touched by his will and by the existence of this life on Teyvat. And the cold tide of chaos drowns out all songs. Do you suppose that's the abyss? The ever-encroaching abyss, silencing all. Seems like she's been able to escape it by just continually moving. Journey with me beyond the stars. You can escape ruin, basically, perhaps. And Nibelung says no. Let my bones be the bulwark that shields this realm. That's fascinating because we know that he falls to the abyss. So what exactly went wrong? Was he just unable to resist it? Or did he try to shield the world using his body and then let himself be slain, basically, knowing that he would be slain? And hopefully take some of the abyss with him, perhaps? This is fascinating. The bones of the earth had been bound beneath fourfold shackles. Those are the shades, aren't they? The bones of the earth possibly being the core principles, of the world. So life and death, and space and time, had been bound beneath fourfold shackles, and the soft white radiance of the sky had been split into 7 immutable hues. Those are the archons. That's the splitting of the primordial power into the 7 elements, isn't it? Thinking about the Traveler and how it seems like they're aligning sort of an abyssal traveler and potentially, for lack of a better term, let's say an elemental traveler of the light realm, you know? This, though, the Winged One's throne now ruled the radiance of the 3 moons. So, the Winged One, I mean, that makes me think of a dragon, but the Lord of Dragons had vanished. So, is that the primordial one, Fanes? Do they have wings? So the throne now rules the radiance of the 3 moons. Fascinating. And then she embodies into Teyvat, and I think the City of Gold is Hyperborea? Is that the one that was the City of Gold? Let's see. Our next artifact is Goblet. Oh, that's not the goblet. This is the goblet. A cup fashioned from Northland jade. They say that the people of an ancient civilization once used it as a ceremonial vessel to make offerings to the heavens. It is the Deep Gallery's bestowed banquet. Following her master's guidance, the girl ventured northward, traversing the freezing wastelands and the corridor of fractured mirrors at the edge of the frozen sea. Alone, she walked through the ruins of the Spiral Abyss, intent on finding the trail of the Voyager that the magical sword master had spoken of. Okay. So it seems like this tale that we're reading here is the legend that Sertologi told Skirk. She's remembering it as she tries to track down that Voyager, maybe. The corridor of fractured mirrors, is that the Spiral Abyss? Is that the Spiral Corridor? Wait, is it called the Moon Corridor? Am I remembering that correctly? I wonder. So it seems like the Spiral Abyss maybe used to be in the north, but now it's in Mondstadt? Or is this a second one? That's fascinating. That was a time when the silver moonlight still showed mercy upon the lands of the far north, and the envoys of the heavens still gazed down upon the dust and mud. Having angered the divine envoys by questioning the progress of knowledge, the people of the Golden City now argued endlessly amongst themselves as for how to quell their wrath. The priests accused each other of sacrilege, of defiling the love, prosperity, and wisdom of the gods. Amongst themselves, they sought to identify the chief culprit, for it was their intention that the one responsible for corrupting the people's minds would likewise be the one to appease the divine envoys. Yet all of a sudden, a voice was heard. If sin comes from the pursuit of knowledge, then ignorance is the true doctrine. If from rebellion, then only the Lamb is truly righteous. If sin must be atoned for with blood, why is it said to stem from humanity? If the laws are perfect and flawless, why fear the act of inquiry? That right there is a fantastic line. Oh my god, why fear the act of inquiry? If the laws are perfect and flawless? Fantastic. I'm assuming this is our Voyager? Yep. It was merely a boy of humble birth who, after somehow... I have a sneaking suspicion all of a sudden. Well, let us see. Who, having somehow slipped past the watchful guards, had stepped into the chamber where the priests had convened. All of their scholarly accusations he refuted in turn, their charges of heresy reduced to naught but angry, speechless glares. In that silent chamber, the chief priest who wore the white-branched crown finally dismissed the guards who had rushed in. O heretical speaker, if, as your eloquent words would suggest, you truly hold that grievous sin is but the delusion of mere mortals, then let you be the one to drink from this cup of burning wrath. Go to the ashen silver tree and plead your case before the very envoys who have cast judgment upon us. And so the previously unknown youth ventured forth into the deepest recesses of the earth, seeking answers from the first angel. I love it! This is one of the very few solid confirmations we have seen in this game that the envoys are the angels, which we suspected / knew from the Archon quest here in Natlan, but still, it's nice to see it in writing. So, it's interesting that the envoys were angered by the questioning of the progress of knowledge, because I've sort of been seeing the angels as, you know, they're meant to help humanity. And the angels that we've met so far have been willing to work against the heavenly principles in what ways they can in order to do that. I wonder if maybe not all of the angels felt the same way. You know, maybe some angels were willing to go against the heavenly principles, but the rest of them were quite loyal. I'm not sure. On the other hand, it could be that the divine envoys were angered because they were worried for humanity. They knew that punishment awaited them if they questioned the heavenly principles and the laws. So, they grew angry when the humans started to question those laws because they knew that that was a dangerous path to take, and so they wanted them to stop doing it, which they expressed through their anger. Again, I am obsessed with the silver branch crown artifact set, so I'm super excited to see it here. These are the priests who wore them. So if this is indeed Hyperborea, if I'm remembering correctly that name, then it's super cool to finally have confirmation which civilization used those crowns, unless maybe... Was Hyperborea part of the unified civilization? Because maybe that would explain why it seemed like those crowns were popping up all over the world. It's not because all those legends were talking about Hyperborea, though that is, of course, possible. Maybe it's just that these crowns were worn all over the world in the unified civilization. Alright, so he goes into the deep. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let's see, what's next? Next is Flower. An icy flower fashioned from Northland jade. Over the course of its long life, its petals have crumbled to dust. It is the echoing song. Following her master's guidance, the girl ventured northward, traversing the freezing wastelands and the corridor of fractured mirrors at the edge of the frozen sea. After slaying countless monsters that wandered the ruins, finally, before the withered husk of a silver tree, she caught a glimpse of treasure concealed beneath drifting snow. That was when the silver moonlight had yet to be shattered in the fires of war, when the divine prophecies of the heavens still extended over the land. They're talking about the moons before the moons died. What a cool sentence. Oh my god. The youth who had ventured deep into the earth's bowels met the first angel, inquiring about the most forbidden origins of the world. The Dawn Daughter trembled at these profane words, not knowing how this mortal had uncovered such a closely kept secret. But her visitor laid bare his origins before her, singing to her dreams of beauty that had never yet graced her mind. In an instant, the fetters laid upon her by the enthroned ruler broke apart like a spider's web. For the first time, she discovered what it meant to serve herself. And to the one she loved, she poured out the matter of creation, that most forbidden of unspeakable secrets. Alas, that your ruler would dare to blaspheme such noble beings. Even the demonic sculptors of bloody nightmares, who delight in tormenting souls, would be taken aback by such cruelty. O Dawn Maiden who has never known love, let me stand as the enemy to your laws. Raise your eyes to the stars, as you should, for the sake of all beings imprisoned by your ruler. Let me be your sword, your shield, your guide, your unpardonable conspirator in rebellion. This is so cool! Then did she, most exalted of the angels, bend down and kiss his forehead, as countless icy blooms unfurled on the frigid silver tree. Yet this moment of betrayal did not go unwitnessed, for at that very moment, the heavenly moons peered down through the cloak of clouds, a longing still more audacious rising within them. Ooh, did the moons rebel? Quick question, did the moons rebel? Because that feels like it's setting up quite the rebellion there. But okay, so the Dawn Daughter, what a cool name. I don't know of any entities affiliated with the Dawn. So, is this a new entity? Or are they born just from this world itself? I'd love more elaboration on that. This is so cool. And so I wonder if this is one of the reasons why knowledge is forbidden. Because simply having that knowledge can break the control of the heavenly principles over all creatures, or certain creatures at least, who knows? Very cool. Her visitor laid bare his origins before her. So I've been assuming that this visitor is the embodied voyager from beyond the world, right? Who has seen all of these civilizations rise and fall. Because she was speaking of songs. The songs of these worlds, basically. And this flower references those as well. Echoing song. So I'm assuming that's what they mean by his origin. That is so cool. Okay. So what happens to the moons, though? Let's see. Next is Circlet. The Lost Crown. A helmet steeped in obsession. Just like the mind of its previous owner, its jade ornamentation seems to come from an age more ancient still. It looks like Sertologi, doesn't it? Following her master's guidance, the girl ventured northward. After slaying countless monsters that wandered the ruins. Finally, through a tattered veil, she caught a glimpse of treasure concealed beneath drifting snow. This one again. It was an age when the unknowing masses still bowed to the sky's decrees, when the dawn star's royal court still hung high above the clouds. Magnificent, noble creations descended from the light itself, and the mortals, unable to look upon their true visages, called them angels. I love that. Unable to look upon their true visages, that's amazing. Their pale silver wings shimmered like moonlit flames. Their heads were adorned with crowns of sevenfold radiance, wrought of the bones of the earth and the stars of the sky. That's cool, because the sevenfold and the bones of the earth immediately makes us think of the lines in the previous artifact, talking about the 7 elements and the 4 shades, essentially. The name upon this crown was the love promised unto all creatures by the heavenly god, or perhaps a mandate to rule over the nations of the earth. Fascinating. With all your heart, soul, and might, you shall love all the beings of this earth. You shall love as morning dew longs for the dawn, as seeds long for the trade winds. They were the most loyal servants in the heavenly court, flawless arbiters of justice. They wove a veil for the great ruler of the firmament, delivering sacred delivering sacred revelations to all realms. Such was the duty invested upon them at the moment of their creation. Or so it should have been. Until the first angel met an unnamed youth beneath the silver tree in the far north. And in those star-like pupils, saw a reflection of herself as she had never yet known. Wouldn't it be wild? Probably there's no chance, but wouldn't it be incredible if this youth was the Jester? What's his name? But imagine it was him. In the star-like pupil saw a reflection of herself as she had never yet known. It was a love not inscribed by law, a freedom the skies would never permit. As her heart fluttered for reasons she could not know, the eternal star crown forged in love's name suddenly fractured. And casting it onto the snow beneath the silver tree, the Dawn Maiden made her fateful vow. Come now, come. Let us recast these absurd laws with bone, and nourish the barren north with blood. Let us build a city and a tower that soars up to the clouds, that the people of the earth need weep bitter tears no longer. I cast this useless crown into the dust, that all earthly nations may breathe free of their shackles. This is so cool, but I'm just imagining that the next artifact is going to be sheer tragedy, because we know that this did not succeed. Moment of Oblivion. A pocket watch fashioned from Northland Jade. Its hands are forever frozen in the moment of its destruction. Following her master's guidance, the girl ventured northward, traversing the freezing wastelands and the corridor of fractured mirrors at the edge of the frozen sea. After slaying countless monsters that wandered the ruins, finally, before the Golden Tower, she caught a glimpse of treasure concealed beneath the drifting snow. That was an era now lost to memory, when the city of the far north glittered like golden threads over the frozen wastelands, and the furnaces of the deep galleries thundered day and night. Turning to forbidden methods, artisans forged countless fey spirits upon the bones of giant beasts. Whoa! Having spun fallen frost moon light into flawless flesh and blood, they clad it to forms once frail and weak. Such authority to create was once the Lord of the Firmament's divine prerogative, yet it was handed to mortals by the rebellious envoy, who dreamed that one day these little creatures might create a perfect being that can merge with the world. Whoa, okay. Alright, so we're seeing the rebellion full in force here. The humans have learned the secrets of creation, and they're doing it, and we know the Heavenly Principles does not like it when people do that. But this is interesting. These little creatures might create a perfect being that could merge with the world. What would that do for the world? From context, I assume it would help it break free of the control of Thanes. I wonder how that works, and what that would look like. If, for instance, you reset, I suppose you could say, the bones of the world, that became the shackles. If you added a new fundamental principle, could you destabilize the whole network of control? Or maybe if you merge with the world, you would then gain control of those shackles and you could choose to release them? I'm curious. Within the deep galleries, which still stood intact, the first angel whispered sweet dreams of the coming dawn to her companion. I see a time when the earthly nations will yearn no longer for heavenly mercy. The cities they build will rise up to the clouds, higher even than the throne and the stars. I see humans sharing the vast sky with the gods they once revered. There will be no more tears, sorrow, or death, for all will be complete. I'm a little concerned. That almost sounds a little bit too extreme. I'm reminded of the phlogistonization plan with Kukulkan, and how he's saying, or he said, you know, if we just turn everything into phlogiston, the abyss will no longer be a threat, but then there would be no life or death or any meaning, you know? But we know this plan doesn't work in any case, yet in the end, such wild delusions and ambitions were brought down from the heavens, and with them fell deep blue crystal spikes. Are those nails? The Fae shrieked as they turned into icy silver mist, and in the space of a single night, the splendor of the Golden City was ruined by frost-laden winds. The traitorous envoy was stripped of both name and form, and from that moment onward, a curse fell upon her kin. If they dared gaze into another's eyes, and to one alone offer the love that was meant for all, I see, then not only would their divine beauty crumble into the wind, but their minds would fall to dust. Until from the fallen one's remains, a Seelie would arise, forever drifting in search of fading memories to consume. Oh my gosh. Do they live off of memories now, do you think? The Seelies! This is so cool! This is such a great conclusion to the Archon quest in Natlan, because we get so much more detail built off of what we learned there. So does that mean that all of these Seelies fell in love at one point? That's incredible. That's so beautifully tragic. Tragically beautiful. But now I'm thinking about the goddess of flowers in Sumeru. She was exiled, but I guess she never fell in love. And there were other Seelies with her, weren't there? I remember in an artifact set how it talked about how she was maybe surrounded by her kin in some form? Something like that? But wow, so I guess, yeah, she was able to be exiled without losing her form, necessarily. Because she never gazed into another's eyes with love alone for them, basically. Wow, oh my god. I love this artifact set. Was that the last one? It was. So I love how they never really concluded what happened to the Voyager. Because the Voyager vested her consciousness in the body of a youth. And then we never heard from her again, but we see this boy with this forbidden knowledge appear. So I really think that was her. And we learn what happened to the angel that fell in love with him. But not him himself. So I wonder if he's still around somewhere. And it sounded like so vested into the body of a youth. And that body had... Where was it? It was over here? No. I think it was here. Oh man, where was it? Well, that body had star eyes, didn't it? So I wonder, was that a feature of the body already? Or there's star-like pupils? Or did that happen after the Voyager vested herself into it? That would be an incredible origin story for those eyes, if so. But otherwise, what a coincidence. Or not even a coincidence. I wonder if that says something about the origins of Khaenri'ah. Maybe it is descended from the Golden City, which I believe is Hyperborea, if I remember correctly. This is a beautiful artifact set. Not only is that a fantastic story, but I love how it answers so many questions. It gives me so many concrete confirmations of things I've been wondering for a long time. But it also leaves so many threads open for further development. That is fantastic. I loved that a lot. Oh my god. Okay, so that's this artifact set. There was another one I wanted to read. Let's see. Longnight's Oath I don't have, and I was also looking at Azurelight. So, one moment please. Alright, here we are with Azurelight. Oh, look, my mouse is there. I'm so unused to having it there. Have fun. Anyways, let's take a look at this. This is Skirk's weapon. Here's the base form. Second Ascension. Wow, very pretty. And let us take a look. That's cool. Description. Oh, off to a great start. The laws shall not be tested, nor shall the strictures be questioned, or the scriptures infringed. This I once believed, proclaimed, and ordained. I want to click that I so badly, but I'm going to resist. I'm assuming that it's going to be the first angel, maybe? Perhaps? Or even the, Lord of the Night? Only when the gentle starlight brushed against mine eyes, unveiling itself to me atop the white stone mountain of song. Is that Dragonspine? was the desire placed in my heart to speak of you of the coming sunrise. Brothers, sisters, you who have submitted to the primordial master, let me tell of the truth I have witnessed. One of us shall wander beneath the moonless night, drinking a sea of tears and futility for kin who will not return. Another shall trudge across gilded sands, never to comprehend scarlet sincerity or ardent admiration. Still another shall shrink into the dark, into bone-piercing hostility, until the promised tides arise to play out one final melody. And still another shall wander ever in dreams solely to journey, awaiting an encounter in a stagnant, foreign land. Beg, plead, and sacrifice. Not one of these shall loosen the bonds about your necks. Okay. So, brothers, sisters, you. I think you is referring to the angels in general. The primordial master, obviously, is Fanes. One of us shall wander beneath moonless night. So that's after the moons have died. I wonder if maybe this is the first angel? Maybe? Another shall trudge across gilded sands. Well, that's the goddess of flowers. And Scarlet and Ardent, that's Deshret and Rukkhadevata, respectively. I mean, who? Anyways, still another shall shrink into the dark. I would think that this is the Lord of the Night. But into bone-piercing hostility? Oh. Maybe it's not that this being is becoming hostile, but rather that they are surrounded by hostility because the Night Kingdom was invaded by the Abyss. So maybe that's the Lord of the Night surrounded by the Abyss. Until the promised tides arise to play out one final melody. Oh, would that be the Ode of Resurrection? I wonder? I don't know. One final melody. I wonder if it has anything to do with Capitano. And yet still another shall wander ever in dreams solely to journey, waiting in encounter in a stagnant foreign land. I have no idea who this is. I wonder if it's going to be someone in Nod-Krai. Someone wandering in dreams we have not yet met. I'm thinking about Sumeru, double checking. Anybody in Sumeru? I don't think so. Until the promised tides, awaiting an encounter in a stagnant foreign land. Could that be Nod-Krai? I'm just thinking stagnant because of, ice. Frozen. But then again, if it was frozen, they could just say frozen foreign land. Wow, it's very short. Since that is so, shall your true and cherished hope be to forsake that which throbs unspeakable in your hearts? Will you languish in an eternity with neither beginning nor end? Commit atrocities in the name of false promises? Therefore, I bid you, cast it all aside, set it at naught, drench your wings in filth. Let the love that blazes in our breasts burst forth. Hunger, thirst, yearn, desire. Entrust the world to those who live in it. Let the nation's glory exceed that of the heavens. Sing and rejoice. Bestow upon humanity authority. Let the lances of lunar light pierce the Creator's delusion. Reach for that daybreak pristine, where the nations need beg for leave to live no longer. Lift up your eyes to the radiant day stars. Let me guide us unto new skies. The moment shall come when the ruler who stands against love is shaken. And once the veil is sundered and torn, a new day over this land shall dawn. Oh my god. Okay, so in reverse order, the veil. We read in the other artifact set that the angels wove a veil for the primordial one. So I think it might be a literal veil of their authority, but also maybe synonymous with the bubble that's around Tevat. Veil is probably the more official term. Then, the ruler who stands against love. You know what I just realized? The Tsaritsa. Isn't she, like, associated with love? The Tsaritsa has no love left for her people or something, says Dane. And I remember I had a theory about, you know, how all of / most of the Archons have a twin of some sort. Maybe not a literal twin, but someone who looks identical to them, except for Zhongli, you mysterious man, you. So, I've been wondering about who would be the Tsaritsa's twin-like figure. And I remember thinking that it seemed like... Also, this twin they usually lose in some way. It seems like for the Tsaritsa, they were positioning her for her story to be that she had lost someone she loved once. So I wonder, the ruler who stands against love, that's fascinating that the primordial one stands against love, and the Tsaritsa who stands against the primordial one is associated with love, maybe. I love that. Haha, no pun intended. That's fantastic. This is fascinating. It seems like the moons may have indeed aligned with the angels. It seems like the angels were fighting against the heavenly principles using moonlight. Again, what a cool sentence. So that's really cool. Radiant day stars. Also, I want to amend something. One of us shall wander beneath the moonless night. Maybe that's not the first angel, because I think this is the first angel speaking. Nope, nope, don't look at it, don't look at it. Bidding her siblings to work with her. This is so cool. Okay, I think that's about it for this one. It does seem like we'll find out exactly who each of these lines belong to. This one is definitely, what's her name? Nabu Malikata, in some cases. The rest of them, oh, and this one I think is the Lord of the Night. But I look forward to figuring out the rest of them. Alright, super cool. Love that a lot. Let's go get our next artifact set. Alrighty, last but not least, here is a Long Night's Oath, which I do not have like anything from apparently, so we're going to be reading it here. Hopefully this can be read in order. I don't recall anyone mentioning a specific order for it to be read in, so we're just going to go as usual. So we're stepping away from the lore we were just talking about, I believe. This is more gearing us up for Nod-Krai, which I'm very happy for. Our flower, the Light Keeper's Pledge, a metal flower that was worn by the Ratsniki. It symbolizes the oath of eternal vigilance taken by its original owner. In those days, the land was leveled by the northern hunting winds, cutting down the unruly frontier folk at the behest of the despotic Knizes? Knizes? That's such a cool name. I would love to know how to pronounce it. And in a bid to seize the power left behind by the heavenly moons, a mad monk who spoke in strange tongues presented a treacherous plot to the Tsar of all Fae. The Fae are ruled by its Tsar? Interesting. Thus were the Moon Children, hidden in their mountain forests, scattered, sisters driven by fate down divergent paths. In the end, given that even that pretentious lunatic could not break free of the celestial shell, the veil, and was consumed by the bedeviled sky at the edge of delusion. Oh dear. Fascinating. Consumed by the sky at the edge of delusion. I would love to know more about that. But all this took place before the paradise had even come into being. For, at the time, it was no more than a daydream, a fantasy shared by two children beneath the moon's glow. It was not until many years later, when one of them was executed as a notorious bandit, infamous throughout the nations, that the other finally realized the true meaning of those words that had been left behind as if by accident. What followed, we all know. When the long night fell, the royal court of the north could no longer mind the remote borderlands beyond the snowy plains. And so the horde of pitch-black beasts tore across the barren land, destroying all traces of past civilization. It was not until, borrowing power from the priestess of the Moon Children, the original torch forger raised that first beam of light, and in the name of the moon, I'll punish you! Banish the darkness to those lightless ruins, burying it deep alongside the nightmare-torn souls. Wow, that was truly instinctive. Complete reflex. That's incredible. When all was over, the survivors raised a lighthouse atop the mountains, gazing out towards the new ruler of Snezhnaya. To preserve his dear friend's pure, childlike dream, the torch forger did not shy away from defending it before the Tsaritsa's court. And though he received the royal edict he sought, he also took upon himself an oath of vigilance and sacrifice. And thus began the history of the paradise, known as Nod-Krai. Okay, well, I was going to say, this is like the perfect primer for Nod-Krai lore. We see pre-Cataclysm, during Cataclysm, post-Cataclysm, and even their relationship with Snezhnaya. So let's review a little bit. So, the land was presumably very craggy, perhaps? And then it was leveled by the northern winds, the hunting winds. Oh my gosh, wait, didn't that one web event, tell us that the wild hunt is in Nod-Krai in some form? So I wonder if this name is borrowing from that. There's a connection there somehow. So the land was leveled by the winds, which also cut down the frontier folk at the behest of the despotic someone. Now that's fascinating. The wind destroyed these people on the orders of a despot. Why? How? Who are you? Are you another name for Decarabian? Surely not. Someone before him? Fascinating. It's very tempting to look at that, but I'm not going to do it. And in a bid to seize the power left behind by the heavenly moons, a mad monk who I don't know who this is, but this is probably talking about lunar power. They presented a treacherous plot to the Tsar of Alfei. Now, we have the Tsaritsa over here, so we'll get there. One wonders if the Tsar of Alfei was the original ruler of Snezhnaya as well, or if there was a Tsar or Tsaritsa of Snezhnaya and a Tsar of the Fey at the same time, like two separate courts. Thus were the moon children scattered. This is interesting. So, this guy is probably the same person as this guy. Which is really funny. This artifact set is throwing shade. So their plan fails in any case. But the result of it is that the moon children are scattered. Are the moon children the frontier folk? Or are the moon children the people who originally held this power that the monk then wanted? And so they scattered them in order to get it. That would be not surprising because moon children and the power left by the moons, probably connected there. All this took place before the paradise Nod-Krai had even come to being. So then there were two children beneath the moons. The moons are there, yay. One of them is executed as a bandit, infamous throughout the lands. The other realized the true meaning of those words. Now, we haven't heard those words yet. Then the long night fell. What is that about? Is that talking about the moons falling? The moons fall. The moon power presumably goes out. The royal court of the north, probably the Fae, could no longer manage the remote borderlands, basically. And then the cataclysm happens. And that makes sense, right? Timeline-wise, I believe we've heard that the moons fell around the cataclysm, during the cataclysm. At least one of them did, right? Potentially. And so if the moon power goes out, then they're overrun by the abyssal invasion of the cataclysm. Then the original torch forger, who was around at the time, raises light, borrowing power from the priestess of the moon children. So the priestess still had power, probably from the moon, and presumably during this, in return for this power, the torch forger agreed to honor the moon children, help the moon children return, respect them at the very least. So if the moon children had been scattered previously, now they're back to peace, hopefully, at this point. Because the original torch forger borrows their power and fights off the abyss. Oh, burying it deep alongside the nightmare-torn soul. Nightmare-torn souls. That's going to be important, isn't it? That power is still there. Waiting. Watching. When all was over, the survivors raised a lighthouse. I love lighthouses. So, torch forger basically leads to lighthouse. The lighthouse holds off the abyss using the power of the moon, gazing far out towards the new ruler of Snezhnaya. So I'm guessing, yeah, because the Archons would have turned over at that point, probably the original Tsaritsa, or the original Cryo Archon, dies, and the Tsaritsa steps into power. It's kind of interesting, because if you think of the lighthouse as using its light to ward off the danger, fascinating that it's pointing towards the new ruler of Snezhnaya. Kind of like, stay away from us vibes right there. The torch forger goes directly to her court and defends the dream, which I'm guessing is the dream of Nod-Krai. He received a royal edict, so I'm guessing that he got the Tsaritsa's permission to found and defend and continue Nod-Krai. Cool. An oath of vigilance and sacrifice. So that's the founding of Nod-Krai. That's such a cool story. All these artifact sets have such cool stories. Nightingale's tail feather. A hat ornament intricately crafted from the feathers of a nightingale. They say that its form was first conceived by the original torch forger. Legends told of a nightingale, carrying an ember in its beak, that flew only on moonless nights. Oh, like a shooting star. A speck of fire that would streak across the firmament like a shooting star! A light in dark times. Upon the ancient ruins of a castle, a vestige of an age of pioneers, stood the high tower of the Lightkeepers, standing guard through the long night. Centuries had passed since their ancestors had stood before the Tsaritsa, swearing an oath of eternal fidelity. And the people living in paradise believed that, so long as their lighthouse stayed lit, they could live in freedom. How much do you want to bet that the lighthouse goes out during the Archon quest? Neither fearing the chaos wrought by the pitch-black beasts, nor needing to seek refuge in the lands to the north. Then one night, a chilling sound carried over the horizon's edge. The leader of the Wild Hunt was abroad, galloping across the night sky. As ever, the Night Watchers lay down their great animal skin cloaks. Yet, that day, the sun rose not. As the rallying horns echoed through the hills, warriors formed ranks at the high tower's foot, awaiting that momentous command to march south in fulfillment of their ancient vows. Yet in the great mead hall, the current Starshina sat in silence, for already a mighty host bright as midsummer's day had reached the city gates to the north. Warriors of the Pale Star, why do you choose this moment to knock at Pyramida's gates? Even you have no right to revoke the sacred powers bestowed upon us by Her Majesty the Tsaritsa. Though they claimed to be reinforcements, these uninvited guests had ulterior motives, as the Starshina knew full well. But to yield at this juncture would spell the end of the autonomy that they had upheld for centuries past. From beneath the lead officer's mask came a voice low and cold, and in its wake a mocking laugh from parts unknown. That is where the dark calamity began. Remember, Snezhnaya cannot bear the weight of your defeat. Warriors of the Nightingale, fight with all your might. Yet, should none of you return, then we will take care of the aftermath. So, this is hundreds of years later, so possibly approaching the current day. We're in Nod-Krai. For some reason, the sun does not rise. This down here, Warriors of the Pale Star, these quote-unquote reinforcements who have shown up. Definitely the Fatui, right? Didn't they say something about, like, the Pale Star Edict? It summoned all the Fatui, the Harbingers, to Nod-Krai? So they're here, claiming to be reinforcements, but it seems like they're waiting for the Warriors of the Nightingale, the forces of Nod-Krai, to fight and then die, so that the Fatui can seize power there. Take over Nod-Krai, I guess. Why? One wonders. Starshina seems like the leader of Nod-Krai. Pyramida is probably the main hall, or the main city. Now, why? What's up with the Wild Hunt and the sun? I almost wonder if the Fatui did something to make sure the sun wouldn't rise. Or is it the Wild Hunt that did? Or did the Fatui do something to the Wild Hunt so that the sun wouldn't rise? We'll probably learn more once we get to Nod-Krai. Fascinating. Undying one's morning bell, a bronze bell that was carried by a warrior who walked through the dark abyss. Its peal can be heard on pitch-black nights. The air was thick with the scent of blood, as if signaling the return of the great war by which the earth had been scorched. With a great mournful wail, that army of spirits flew across the pitch blackness of the night sky. According to the folktales spread through the countryside, they were said to be a demonic host from another world seeking a harvest of souls. Others believe them to be the lingering phantoms of that ancient nightmare. This is the Wild Hunt. Yeah, isn't it? This was the calamity that the people of the borderlands refer to as the Wild Hunt. Cool. If it had been no more than a summer storm, ravaging the sky with thunder and lightning. It might have seemed a small mishap to those accustomed to a life of adventure. But when that tempest, the likes of which had not been seen for a century, poured down upon the earth like black blood rain, only then did the people realize that these terrifying legends, which had been passed down by their ancestors, were not mere stories meant to frighten children, but born instead of a terror that coursed through their very veins. But in the end, it was a terror that someone had to face, lighting the way for the souls wandering through the boundless dark. A black-feathered flock of crows moved between the realms of light and shadow, led by one who stood against the light. His sword he silently raised, the face reflected in its sheen as sharp and unyielding as the blade itself. Onward pressed the oath-bound legion, though they knew they were as moths to a flame, marching onto that battlefield from whom none would return. Oh dear. Okay. At the end of the path, only the one who held the dark blade still stood. He knew that deep within the forest lurked the foul force by which the wild hunt had been summoned forth. Just a little more, a little further, and he would have saved the land he had sworn to protect. Lost in his thoughts, he failed to notice that his body had already been torn asunder, and that the warning bell he carried rang out hissing amidst the tearing of blood and black muck. Perhaps frightened by its unsettling chime, the carrion feeders around him faltered, frozen in their tracks. Thus was he left to walk alone in the abyss, to fulfill an as yet unfulfilled oath. As many years went by, a new addition was woven into the folklore of the land. That whenever mournful bells toll, it is a sign that the one who swore to hunt down the wild hunt is approaching. That's so cool. Who are you? Who are you? You're so cool. Man, I'm still walking forward even as the carrion feeders attempt to eat him. He's not in good condition. This is interesting. This is very interesting. Another world. Is it a specific another world? Or is it just the abyss? I love how there's options now. A horn, unwinded. A horn that was once used to summon those who had sworn oaths. It has long since lost its purpose. When the horns proclaimed the northern realm's might, thunderous footsteps shook the earth, like iron rails stretching across the frozen tundra, sending pale flames shooting across the land. Is that a train that they're talking about? A contingent, sworn to Her Majesty the Tsaritsa, whose loyalty lay with no single harbinger, vowed to forge a pure new world beneath the white glimmering stars. Interesting. I'm trying to recall if I know the name of that contingent. I feel like I should. Even those dwelling in the borderlands, autonomy being bestowed upon them, remained children of the motherland. For in her boundless love, the Tsaritsa abandoned none who chose to follow. Again with the love. Since his earliest years, the warrant officer who led this border squad had held this conviction firm, until he hovered before the very gates of hell and glimpsed those souls unloved by any. The request to strike had yet to be sanctioned, but he had already made up his mind. We journeyed this far to save innocents beset by merciless calamity. How could we stand by as those pitch-black beasts devour the land, snatching away the lives of mothers and their children? If this is what those in power called an order, then to hell with it. Thus was the foul miasma swept away by the northern winds, just as the first light of dawn pierces the coal-black clouds, its glow once more cast down upon the cerulean earth below. The war had ended, yet to the high tower no triumphant hero returned, only a criminal, and the children he had risked all to save. Though the plan had strayed slightly from its course, the renegade doctor paid it no heed, for the goal had been achieved. Desertion, treason against the Tsaritsa. Grave crimes indeed, yet absolved by a newly sworn oath. Upon a staircase built of bones, the new warriors took up their watch, there to stand till the abyssal tides dried up. Huh. I wonder if maybe this came before this. oath-bound legion. They've sworn an oath. Well, they're standing watch, not necessarily hunting. But if the oath is what's keeping them alive, basically, this could preempt, or this could come before this. This could set up that. The renegade doctor, is this the doctor? The doctor? He seems the type to have a plan that would, you know, go awry, but still achieve his goal, so he doesn't care, you know, so on and so forth. This is our last one. I think second to last? Oh, it's our last one. Hey, is that Xiao? Ooh. Dyed tassel. An ancient heavy helmet. It is an heirloom that bears the mark of a venerable lineage of northern warriors. It is said that the first torch forger hailed from the wintry city of the furthest north, the nightingale's emblem a mark of his illustrious heritage. Originally engaged as spies, the family was elevated to the gentry by the Winter Tsar, and thus did this man of humble origin step into the royal palace, now mingling among the fey dignitaries of the court. When the nations found themselves swept up by that calamity, the frontier regions, once the locus of high hopes during the pioneering age, found themselves bereft of the gods' protection. In Nod-Krai's darkest hour, from the north came only a single rider clad in dark silver armor. As if knowing why he had come, the Maiden of the New Moon lit a beacon to dispel the darkness. On the eve of their departure for the Lempo Isles to the south, a grand banquet was held for the warriors in the great meat hall. Of those present, the most striking was undoubtedly a certain young warrior, clad in a dark tasseled helmet, polearm clutched in hand. Among the Ratniki of the time, few are those who still wear such archaic, cumbersome armor, for it symbolized their bloodline as descendants of those warriors who first fought alongside the torch forger to repel the Black Tide. Despite having neither fief nor noble title, they continued to uphold their oaths of their ancestors, for they believed that somewhere out there, the Lord of all Fae and erstwhile protector of all Snezhnaya watched over them still. Amidst the sludge-sullied tundra, now soaked too in the blood of heroes, the young warrior knelt among the bodies of his fallen comrades. Sacrifice had always been the Ratnik's fate and honor, but if he could save one more soul, rescue just one other, then all the better. And so, like his ancestors before him, he prayed to an old god that no one now called upon, as well to the Knyazes he once held dominion over. Perhaps awakened by the sound of the horn, or drawn by the long-forgotten scent of bloodshed, or maybe just out of boredom. Somewhere out there, as if in answer to his pleas, a long-dormant phantom stirred from slumber. That ghostly blue wildfire of which ancient legend spoke would burn brightly anew on the fresh fields of battle. Ho 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 ho. Okay, my timeline is confused. The Torch Forger. I thought you were around during the Calamity. When the nations found themselves swept up by that calamity, one person arrives, Maiden of the New Moon lit a beacon. So that could be the, what was her name? The High Priestess? The Priestess of the Moon Children helped the Torch Forger in that time. But this sounds like that this person who has arrived is a descendant of the warriors who fought alongside the Torch Forger. Meaning that this is an incident after the Torch Forger's incident, which means that this is the Calamity, and it's after the Torch Forger. So, was there another Calamity? Let's go back up. The Priestess. When the long night fell, was the Torch Forger's incident. So, I thought that would be the Calamity, maybe, because we know, I think, that the moons were around and that they died at that time. But if this is referring to something else, then this would much predate the Calamity, which occurs down here. Long night. What is the long night? What is associated with night? Are we talking about the time when the... No, that doesn't make any sense. The time when the sun didn't rise would be a long night. But it seems like the night falling was a bad thing, because then we were attacked by the abyss. And this was definitely much more modern day. I even thought the Fatui might be involved. This seems like it's probably the Jester. Possibly. Interesting. Well, fantastic groundwork here, and I look forward to figuring out more as we explore Nod-Krai. The Lord of all Fae and erstwhile protected Volshenstein watched over them still, potentially, so that person might be out there. And then that ghostly blue wildfire. It seems like they reawoke this guy in some form. So this guy might still be around in some form. Up there they were associated with wind, but down here with ghost fire, basically, which I love. I love ghost fire. Well. Fascinating. Ooh. Okay. Ooh. Aww. I don't even remember this set. Have I ever seen the set? That's so cute. Initiate. How adorable. Alright, well that's all of Long Night's Oath. And that is fascinating. That is so cool. I'm so glad I read this. It's laying a lot of groundwork for Nod-Krai, but it's also raising a lot of questions, as all the best artifacts in this game do. And I really look forward to figuring those out in Nod-Krai. I also appreciate that it's reminding me of all the factions that exist. There's the Wild Hunt, there's the Fatui, there's the Light Keepers, I want to say. Then there's the Light Keepers. Then there's they're called here Moon Children. I don't know if they're still called the Moon Children, but the people who follow the moon, or the moons, I should say. Man, I'm so excited. Nod-Krai is going to be so cool, isn't it? All right. Well, that's all for now. We have done our homework. Let's see, should we go back to Genshin to finish up? Let's go back to Genshin to finish up. So yeah, that's all for now. We are approaching Nod-Krai readiness, it would seem. I can't believe it. I feel like I'm really going to love Nod-Krai, and I cannot wait. This is going to be a blast, isn't it? Alright, well thank you all so much for watching. Again, so sorry that the stream today was interrupted by internet issues. I'll be looking into that, see if there's anything I can do. But for now, I hope you enjoyed. We did our homework. We didn't do it in the form that we thought we would do it in, but we did our homework nonetheless. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these videos and or streams in the future where we really dive into these artifact sets, especially once we're caught up and we can reference all of like the past documents that we have and click all those links on the wiki and finally know the forbidden knowledge. I can't wait. But for now, we are done here. So thanks for watching this impromptu video. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at the lore behind these artifacts and these weapons, and I hope you're looking forward to more in the future. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters, Jay Blakewood, Connor Sard, Power of Chaos, Mary, Edu, Gibrilia, the Loyal Servant of Her Majesty, the Tsaritsa, Ruru, Axel Iron, Jake Quellen, Lunar, Sonova, Mathsen, Martine, Marcus, Sal, Don't Call It, Brian, Warp, and all of our anonymous patrons. And again, thank you all so much for understanding about the stream crashing. I want to figure this out, but it is a mystery. So thank you all for your understanding. And I will see you next when I see you. Bye now!